I'm head of customer advocacy, or in effect, the customer advocate for HSBC in Australia. And the role of customer advocate is a role that the ABA, so the Banking Association, brought in and formalised, although some banks had them for a while, in around 2016. So the customer advocate role is really about bringing the voice of the customer into the bank. I'm more concerned about the outcome for the customer, and is it fair, equitable, and a suitable outcome. We need to show extra care to customers who are experiencing vulnerability. But then we have a pandemic, we have bushfires, we have floods, and all of a sudden you have massive amounts of your customers who are experiencing a vulnerability. And it becomes really clear to everybody that anybody at any time in their life could experience or find themselves in a position of vulnerability. And it's all about how do we make sure that no matter who you bank with, if you are experiencing a vulnerability, you get the extra care for your banking needs that you need at that time. The bank is compliant with what it needs to be compliant with in terms of the banking code of practice around vulnerable customers. So the focus at the moment is how do we uplift or do more over and above that, those requirements, and how do you bring to life the requirements? So the Banking Code of Practice says you provide extra care. There are a whole lot of guidelines that the industry follows behind that are best practice guidelines. So how do we bring to life HSBC's promise to provide extra care to these customers? We are pretty geared up to respond if a customer self-identifies or chooses to share with us that they're going through a vulnerability. And we're particularly good at things like financial hardship. But if the vulnerability is impacting their banking needs or putting them in harm's way in terms of their finances. So when I ring you, I need you to talk really slowly and loudly, or I have dyslexia and some of the communications you send me are confusing because of the way they lay out, and I therefore can't read my statements properly. They should feel safe enough, hopefully, to tell us so that we can do what we can to support them to mitigate or to minimize or prevent that financial harm. Vulnerability is big. It's going across to utilities as well. It's not just in banking. People are people and they use your services, and these people, like 1 in 4 people, experience mental illness in their life at some point. You could be subject to financial abuse or a scam, getting old, losing your hearing, losing your eyesight, facing discrimination through other things like sexual orientation or gender. The area of vulnerability as a lens to apply for design is really important. I think that if we started to design products, processes for people with vulnerabilities and applied them to everyone would win. I am, yeah. Largely because we are doing another piece, a very big piece internally that this will feed into. We are re-looking at how we collect the information when people do disclose to us, right? So how do we make sure everything is working exactly how it should, that we're very clear about how we're going to use it, who can see it, where it gets kept. You can be very robotic and horrible about that, and you're not going to get people to tell you, and they're not going to feel comfortable. So this will feed in to help us to put the human lens and the lens of how they want to be spoken to, how they want to feel safe to share, how, what is the process that would work for them. So yeah, absolutely. It's very important for that. This ability to give people the chance to skill up in a different area, plus get real life experience, plus get exposure and get their work seen is amazing. Never let a crisis go wasted. Huge opportunity for us to shift, particularly in digital space, and be a lot more innovative to help people who are struggling.